Hello, welcome to another episode of Namtaro Talks. Today's topic will be a little bit, I guess, not really sensitive or touchy, but pretty broad. Okay, long story short is my relationship with the topic itself, my current outlook on it, and how I dealt with it throughout my life. And that topic is money. Yes, money. Dinero,钱, money. Yeah, so you already know as a kid, you're pretty much dependent on your parents. Like, you gotta, like, they buy the stuff for you, like, whether it's the food or the toys or the games or the entertainment. Yeah, you're 100% depend on them. I mean, you can voice your opinions, and sometimes they treat you, sometimes they're nice to you, but they have full control. And of course, with that control, they have the influence. They can guide you towards a certain interests, certain hobbies, certain extracurriculars, certain activities. But that's as a kid, you know. I mean, you don't really have much agency, and you're not that smart or old enough to make your own decisions yet. So you gotta depend on your parents. But of course, over time, you gradually develop your own agency. You realize, oh, so that's what money is, or that's how you pay for stuff, and that's how much this is costs, or that's how you earn money. And that's why mom and dad go to work. And then sometimes some households, they are nice to you. They give you an allowance. I didn't get an allowance. I had like a little different system. It's funny. I itemized chores. Like, okay, maybe doing the dishes is 50 cents. Cleaning my room is 25 cents, or the vacuuming is $1. And it's funny. I went up, worked up a little list with that, and my parents, they went okay with it. And I was just happy to have like some spending money, some cash in my hands that I could call my own, that I could spend on whatever. But I think my parents caught on because I was doing more chores than expected. Like there's no reason to like sweep the floor like 2 or 3 times in one day, or sweep a clean floor. And doing the dishes when it's like 3 plates, that's not doing the dishes. Yeah, so they nipped that in the bud in a quick hurry. And of course, your main income as a kid is pretty much whatever gift money you get from your birthday, from Christmas, or for Asians, Lunar New Year. And that's, if you're lucky, you get any, and you shouldn't really depend on that kind of money. But as a kid, that's all you really have, And at first, your parents hold on to your money, and they supposedly put it in a savings account for you, or they put it on the side or in a secret envelope or something. But over time, they begin to trust you with the money you receive for those occasions. But as a kid, like, money is really tight, because especially if there is something that you want, but your parents don't want you to have it and are adamant about not buying it for you, you have no choice but to like obtain your own money to eventually buy that product. And the only gifts and occasions can only get you so far. So maybe you have a little side hustles, or some kids have little side jobs. I remember in middle school, I used to sell those Kudos granola bars. I kind of upcharged them a little bit, made a little profit off that. I even made a profit of selling sandwiches to friends. But of course, I must take into account the cost of the materials for the sandwiches. So yeah, the concept of money was taught through a couple of garage sales as a kid. Our old house, we had a front yard or front lawn, and it was a bit flatter. Like the ones that we have now are a bit sloped or a bit isolated, so we won't really see garage sales here. But we're like, oh, we can like put up this old stuff for sale, and people would actually buy it, and we get money from it. I remember another method I used to earn money was my neighbor had a cat, and whenever she was out of town, I would feed the cat or come over and play with it a little bit, just to keep an eye on the cat, make sure he's okay. And the neighbor paid me a little bit for that. When I was in high school, I taught the piano lessons. Oh yeah, that's right. Honestly, my piano skills aren't even that good. I don't even know why I was in a position to teach piano, but I taught very basics, like the middle C, and like the black keys, and the very basic songs, and to little kids. And yeah, I was in a scout troop, and there were younger kids than me, and of course everyone's like most parents want their kids to have a little taste of like musical knowledge and the basics of a better understanding of music. Not just like the basic stuff that you hear on the radio and pop songs. Like understand chords and notes and all of that. And it's either like a violin or piano, and I knew how to play the piano, though only as good as a high schooler could at the time. I'm no prodigy or anything, but I got to set my hours, and my hours were on the weekends. And honestly, I feel bad for those kids after a while because I am very sure no kid wants to take piano lessons on the weekend. I mean, the weekend is your time out from school. The weekends are for fun. And I'm very sure the parents didn't want to drive their kid to get piano lessons from me. I believe I had like 4 or 5 students, like ever, total. And I felt kind of bad because some kids, like, they weren't getting better. And I was like, oh my God, what am I doing wrong? I tried my best. And honestly, piano is it's just a matter of practice, a lot of memorization and repetitiveness. And I admit, I was not the best piano student either. I remember there were songs that I repeated for 5 or 6 weeks. And I get paid monthly, of course. But you would also have to accommodate, like, the parents would be, oh, the kid will be out of town or has this other activity on this weekend. So, yeah, that's like one slot that you're not going to be making money. And of course, you got to set aside your weekends to teach the kids piano. And then you would also cancel the lessons for, of course, holidays, but sometimes the most arbitrary reasons. Like one time it was my birthday, I canceled lessons. One time it was the Super Bowl. Well, the Super Bowl is always close to my birthday. So I canceled lessons for that too. But I made what I considered a fair amount of money from teaching piano. And honestly, it felt good. It felt empowering to have quote unquote disposable income. No, what little I had of it anyways. But I had a bit more agency to buy clothes I actually wanted. And of course, at the time, I liked trading card games. So I bought booster packs and single cards. And of course, a couple of video games here and there. Of course, I tried to find the used ones at GameStop. I remember one of the more major things I bought with my money was an MP3 player from a friend. Though I'm very sure that friend ripped me off because I paid $50 for an MP3 player that was half a gigabyte. But what can I say? I was desperate at the time. I was sick of using the CD player. And I want something. It was a USB MP3 player too, not an iPod. I mean, I wasn't super fancy or rich or anything, but it got the job done. Just drag and drop MP3 files onto it. And with my piano money, I earned that. Yeah, I was sick of wearing like dorky clothes, which is ironic because those are the clothes I wear for work nowadays. Like collared shirts and polos. But I wanted to wear like, I don't know, what I call mall shirts. Like Hollister, Aeropostale. I never had Abercrombie, though I'm kind of glad I didn't. And Marshalls. Ooh, I love Marshalls. Like brand names for less. I love all those hip hop brands. I bought shirts that were maybe a bit too big for me, but it was too late. I bought it. My parents couldn't really do anything about it. Of course, Echo Unlimited was popular back then. Of course, I went to PacSun, and like the Zoo York jackets I bought for myself. I bought some clothes at Hot Topic too. Mind you, this was more in high school. I recall 2 experiences when I was younger, before the piano lesson days, like quote unquote. Yeah, that really, I guess, changed my relationship with money because I remember my mom, she found some kind of like retreat, or no, not retreat, some kind of charity service where you donate money monthly to sponsor a kid in a foreign country and the third world country that's not doing as good as you. And she wanted me to do it. And I didn't want to because my money was very limited. It was like $5 a month, and which is not much now, but it was a lot to me. And I was torn because I knew that the kid like needed money more than I did, and that the $5 a month would go a long way. And I was labeled as selfish and bad, and it stuck with me. I'm like, but this is my money. I struggled like internally just from that incident. And like I said, like as a kid, you're pretty much limited in ways that you can earn money, and the ways that you obtain money, it's very limited. It is very meager amounts too, but you don't know about delayed gratification. You don't know the true value of money. So you try to find means to obtain money. I admit there were times where I stole money or I'm not very proud of it. Like, and I got caught several times. But then you get caught stealing, it's you're stuck with like a bad label, a bad reputation, and like the person's trust in you, it diminishes for at least some time, you know. So, and it's not really the amount that matters. It was the principle behind it, and but it was the desperation. Yeah, it was like maybe $5 or $10, and looking back, I mean, I wouldn't approve of it, but you gotta kind of understand, you know, you gotta sympathize. I don't justify kids stealing at all, but if anything, like I guess teach them a healthier relationship with money. Like have them understand money better. Have them not really spoil them, but not deprive them of it either. And have them understand budgets. Have them understand costs and markets and pricing and necessities and what's valuable and what's entertainment. And of course, when I was school age, my parents didn't want me to have a job. They wanted me to focus on school, to get good grades, to get into college, you know, like the typical parent stuff. So I didn't really have ways to quote unquote earn money. So when I got into undergrad for a couple of quarters, I applied for the dining commons job and I worked in the dining commons. And yeah, it was minimum wage, but it was a manageable environment. I get to be around food. I get to see my peers. I got a free meal every shift, but it was peanuts, if anything. And at the dining commons, you pretty much gotta deal with the station that you're at, and they could place you literally anywhere. You could be at the burger station, the pizza station, the Mongolian barbecue station, the featured food station, which surprisingly, a lot of people like the eggplant parmesan, and sometimes a certain station is super popular, and then you gotta work like heck. You gotta keep like organizing the food, piling the food onto the plate, but there are long lines. And sometimes they made me responsible for the beverages, and they had to train me with that. So, but I learned that all the beverages and all the vending machines are really connected to one giant tubes throughout the entire building, and the tubes are in one single room in the back, and each drink is in a giant like cardboard box, a giant plastic cardboard box, pretty much. So I had to change those and learn when those are empty and throw them out. And oh my God, the row I hated the most. Well, the dishes were pretty bad too. Yeah, because after you finish the dirty dishes, you put it on a conveyor belt, and then you gotta wear 2 or 3 gloves, and then grab the dirty dishes and dump the food, and then put it in the washing machine or the conveyor belt. And then it comes out super hot, and you gotta stack the new dishes, and you gotta bust the dishes to all the stations, and the cart's super heavy. But I think the most tedious one was literally just cleaning tables. You just walk around with a spray bottle and a cloth, and you spray the tables, wipe it down. That's it. And you do that for 3.5 hours. And I felt kind of guilty with that job because, I mean, I didn't immediately tell my parents about it. I didn't hide it from them. They knew I was working a job, and what could they really say? But I didn't earn much. I earned like maybe a few hundred, or if not a thousand or two total the entire time I was with that job for several months. And you try to like plan it around your class time, and if you're in other extracurriculars, you gotta plan it around that. I remember one time I had a shift right before a final, and I hated that so much because I would rather review before my final rather than just walk around and spray tables. But one thing I enjoyed was in the summers between the college years, like during the summer, I took on a summer job where they call it a tutoring job, but honestly, they just put a bunch of kids in different grade levels in different rooms, and you pretty much come up with like lesson plans, and you just like go through the workbook and like do some English assignments, do some math assignments. So they quote unquote call it tutoring, but you're pretty much like a mini teacher. But there wasn't too much agency over it. Sometimes I went off the lesson plan and had little fun activities for the kids. And I know I wasn't the most mature at the time, and some of the kids were really ridiculous, really funny. And I couldn't help but crack up and start laughing. And of course, all the rooms were right next to each other, and I was responsible for the 5th and 6th graders. But then we were super laughing so much, and I was laughing. So the teacher from the other room has to come over and like get everyone to calm down. But that's pretty much the extent of your ability as a student, whether it be in high school or college. I mean, you're spending money. You know tuition costs money. You know it's very expensive. You know all the money you make is probably just disposable income and won't even make a dent in your loans anytime soon. But it felt empowering or give you a false sense of empowerment that you're in control, that you got some money to spend, you got some money for fun, you got some money to travel a little bit here and there, you got some money for gas to drive in the car to go to this or that location. But truth be told, during undergrad and honestly grad school also, I was still dependent on my parents. I used my parents' money, and I felt super guilty the entire time. I had a negative net worth. I had very little to no income, but I still wanted to live. And I was very cognizant. I tried not to spend too much, and whatever I spent on, I stretched it as best as I can. I made it worth it. I appreciated where the money came from, but it doesn't take away that it's not my money, that some of it I earned, but a huge majority of it I did not. And that feeling, it just sticks with you because you're helpless. And I had that feeling all the way through grad school. Yeah. And even to like the very last moment when I took the boards, which cost another huge chunk of money, then I'm like, all right, I passed it. I can finally get a real job based on my profession and credentials. And at that point, that's when it finally turned around. Like I was finally making a manageable, respectable wage. I could finally save. I could finally attack my loans. I could finally begin to invest because as a student, like forget about it, Though one side tidbit, the year between undergrad and grad school, I took a year off and I worked at a pho restaurant, and it was slightly over minimum wage, but I enjoyed my time there because, of course, I get a free meal every shift with a Vietnamese food, and of course, the manager liked me, the cooks in the back liked me. I get to eat food that they don't even serve at the restaurant, and I was staying at a friend's living room at the time, so my rent was dirt cheap, and not to mention I was taking some community college classes to make up for some of my grades in order to have a better standing and application when applying to grad school. But I paid for all that with the pho restaurant money. And at this current moment in my life, I make more money than I ever had before. But then again, I'm not a student anymore. I'm not a kid anymore. So of course, that would make sense. But I keep repeating that it is much more liberating because I can go to events, I can travel, I can eat out without being as worried as before. But like I tell people, I'm not money bags. I'm not a baller, but I'm in a better position, and it's not all about me. Sometimes I buy gifts. I buy little things for people here and there because I think about them. Sometimes I treat people and they treat me. They say money does not buy happiness, but in my opinion, I'm not 100% happier, but it gives you more opportunities, more chances, more doors are open for you, more choices. And you don't want too many choices that you get analysis paralysis, but it helps you establish your identity more, your interests more, your hobbies more. Like you could check this or that hobby out. You could check this or that place out, this or that restaurant out. And you're in a position to provide, you're in a position to get by. That you can pay the bills, you can pay the rent or the mortgage. And I was lucky, I got an education in a field that I'm cool with a fair wage, and I can afford it relatively. I'm still smart about it. I wouldn't say stingy, but more, not really minimalist. I don't know how to best describe it. But I'm still careful with spending, but I can be careful. I'm careful because I choose to be, not because I absolutely have to be, or I have no choice, or it doesn't even matter if I'm careful. Because there's many people out there, they're in much worse situations than me, and I understand that. And honestly, it's tough out there, and I count my blessings, and that could have easily have been me, And if it's like friends and family, I want to help them. I don't know how else, but and money changes a lot all the time. Like there's inflation and things get more expensive. Like sometimes you get laid off, sometimes you get a pay cut, sometimes you have to put up with the BS at your job and the terrible commute just for making money. And I really do count my blessings. Like I say, my partner has a fair income also, and we both of us had a fair amount of help paying off our student loans. I mean, no one 100% paid it off for us. We were paying it off, but from the help, I figured that you gotta swallow the pride to accept the money, accept the help, because there's no point in going about it on your own if you have an opportunity to make things easier for you. There's no point in just accumulating interest for no reason. So a couple of interesting trading stories. I admit the first trading platform I used was TD Ameritrade, but I switched to Fidelity now, which I like a lot more. But with TD Ameritrade, I was like looking up stocks and looking at websites like Market Watch and see what's hot right now and try to look at market trends. And I bought like single stocks of just companies I know, companies I heard of. Oh, I shop there. Oh, I heard of that one. Oh, that's a tech company, blah, blah, blah. And then, woo, I lost some money from that. But it's a learning experience. And I don't think I'm a single stocks kind of person. I remember I had the opportunity to really attack my student loans, hopefully finish it off. But there was this up and coming company called Moderna, and I was like, should I invest in that or pay off my loans? And I paid off my loans. And Moderna quadrupled in price. But I'm not really looking back at it with regret or anything. I mean, that's the nature of it sometimes. And from what I heard, you don't want to owe too much money. You don't want to have too many loans. You don't want to be in debt. You don't want to accumulate interest, because sometimes it's a snowballing cycle that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get out of. And there's no point in putting yourself in that position. And with trading, you learn about all the different kind of stuff that's out there, like the benefits of ETFs and mutual funds, and the riskiness of calls and puts. And I don't even know what's going on with Forex and futures, but I know to save for your retirement, like try to get your employer to match your 401k and max out your Roth IRA every year. Also have a HSA, and maybe look into all accounts are tax advantage, that they tax you before you deposit or after you deposit. So I still get those mixed up sometimes. Yeah, for the time being, I pay my bills on time. I pay my credit cards on time. I set everything on auto pay because, like I say, I'd rather pay for it and see like a huge deficit, a huge dip in my checking account, rather than forget to pay it and get penalized later for it. Because once it's paid, it's a peace of mind. It's taken care of, you know? You don't have to, I'll pay it later, but then credit card interest is like 20 to 30%. I never have been behind on my credit card payments. And over time, when it comes to money, I feel like my best strategy is kind of a set it and forget it. So I automate not only my payments, but my investing. Like, okay, a few dollars into this fund, every 2 weeks, a few dollars into the high yields. But like I say, it's like a love-hate relationship sometimes. Sometimes I splurge. I go through phases with the hobbies, whether it be board games at one point and shirts and sweaters at another point, and those conventions. I really just go to the dealers' halls and the artist alley, but I know they have other panels and events, and that's what the whole convention's about. But I pretty much paid to go shopping, which is kind of ridiculous, but I get fun, interesting, exclusive stuff. And really, for those conventions, you really pay to be in the atmosphere. But the underlying relationship with money, for me, it's guilt. I'm thinking, do I really need it? That's my motto nowadays. Do I need it? Do I need that board game? Do I need to go out to eat? Do I need that clothes or that hat or whatever entertainment frivolous thing? Because honestly, a lot of things in life I do not need per se, but I don't know why I spend money on it. Is it because I'm bored? Because I'm curious? And maybe it's not even as bad as I make it out to be. That's why for my entertainment, I try to find means to get them for free. Yeah, you can interpret it how you want, but I try to get audiobooks for free. I try to watch movies and TV shows for free. I try to listen to music for free. I rarely, if ever, spend money on entertainment like that. I don't really have a subscription service that I know of. And of course, with money, I encounter certain situations that I absolutely detest, such as being forced to spend or being pressured in a position to spend, especially when you're traveling and you're like really hungry, but you know it's overpriced, but what are you gonna do? Or there's this exclusive product and they say, oh, you can only get it here, you can't get it at home or anywhere else, but it's at this price, get it, get it, get it. I also don't like getting a poor service, which really sucks because you already paid them for it. So you could try to demand a refund, but sometimes it's more trouble than it's worth. And I hate getting ripped off. Sometimes I buy something and then I find it cheaper somewhere else, or only I waited a bit longer, or I bought it by accident and I didn't check the return policy and now I'm stuck with it. Or I bought something that was super exclusive, one of a kind, never produced again, and I lost it and it's gone forever. I know it's not a healthy relationship, but I admit I threw fits over things like that before. Yeah, money, it's a means to an end. There's some people who don't have a lot of money, but who are pretty happy, and there's people who have lots of money and are miserable. But the way I see it, I try to be objective with it as possible. I see it as a tool, because if I wanted more money, I would have tried to find a job with more money or try to get a degree that earns more money. But would my life have really been better? Would I have been happier? Like, I don't know. And I had the means to travel, and I looked at the standards of living in other places, and their earning potential was less. I likely make more than them, but they seem happy. They have amenities. They have a sense of community. They have opportunities. They can do local travel here and there. Like, it might be cheap for me, but it's average for them, or even expensive for them, but they get by. But the good thing about being in a slightly decent position is that I feel like a little more generous, because I'm in a position to give. I'm in a position to help. I can be more realistic with like birthday gifts to close friends and family members, or give them a little something to help them out in their time of need. Yeah, you can kind of figure it out that I'm Asian, and so I celebrate Lunar New Year. And during Lunar New Year, we play this game called Bokul Gakop. So you roll 3 dices, and there's 6 different pictures, and you bet money on the pictures, and whatever the dice shows up, you like gain money from that. And before, when I was a student, all I had was pretty much the money from the red envelopes or from gifts or wherever money I got from, and I would bet $1 or $2 at a time on the different pictures. It's usually like an animal or a fruit or vegetable. And in that game, if you are the dealer, you are in charge of all the money. You are in charge of all the exchanges, but you gotta pay them out if they win, but you get to collect if they lose. So you either get money very easily or you lose money very easily. But recently, I didn't have any qualms as a dealer. I volunteered to be a dealer a majority of the time. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I lost money, but I played among my family, which honestly, I don't mind losing money too, because it helps out different family members, and it's like menial amounts of money. It's not like we're paying each other's bills or anything. So, and some of them have kids, so it's like I'm paying for this kid's I don't know, next meal or towards a college fund or whatever. And at this position, you can be a little bit riskier with the money. Before, I bet $1 or $2. Now I still do that, but sometimes I bet 5 or 10. I think I only bet 20 a couple of times, though I don't know what happened after that, if I won or lost. Yeah, so with money, it's a very complicated relationship. You want to be smart about it. You want to get it as much about it as you want, but you don't want to lose yourself over it. You don't want it to affect your happiness or your mental health or well-being, but you need enough to survive, and you want to be smart with it. If you're in a position to, you gotta learn how to invest it, and you gotta pay off your bills, but you gotta check all the expenses, not just for yourself, but in the future, all your dependents. It really makes you prioritize on what's important and what's not. Like, do I really need this product at the grocery store? Do I really need to do this hobby? Or what can I get for cheap or for free? What can I do with or without? Or what's necessary? What's fun? What's once in a while? What's an unnecessary expense? What's not worth it? Yeah, I don't drink alcohol as much anymore, but if I do, I would rather do it at home rather than at a restaurant or a bar, because you buy a 6 pack of beer or a bottle of wine, you can just finish it off at your own leisure at home, and it's a lot cheaper too. Especially coffee. Yeah, I rarely go to coffee shops, and the only reason I would go is if I'm checking out a new place, or they have a new unique drink, or they have a unique take on coffee, or they make it special or different somehow. But long story short, whatever you can like get or make for cheaper at home, you just stick with that. Everything else outside of the home, it should be considered a treat or a luxury. I haven't paid for a gym membership in the longest time. I do a lot of like free body weight exercises at home. I have my parents' old biking machine. I bought those adjustable weights. I have the pull-up bar that you hang in the door frame. So I save money in that regard also. Well, that's the money episode, pretty much. I know it was all over the place. It kind of like from how I felt with money when I was younger to where I stand with it now, and kind of what I do and how I feel about money. But I gotta learn to not be a money hoarder, or not to be scared of money, or not to feel guilty about money, but also be okay to not necessarily lose it, but part ways with it or risk it sometimes. Like invest it or gift it or buy souvenirs or buy things for other people as appropriate, or help someone out whenever you can, maybe donate for charity. Personally, what I like doing is buying local. You go to one of those like arts and crafts fairs or the farmers market or a local mom and pop business. No, that where I am right now, I don't have any qualms about spending money on, because I'm contributing back to the community. I'm helping like someone's business. I'm not contributing to some corporate conglomerate. And what you spend money on, it should enrich you. You can get a familiar experience. You can get a new experience where you learn something. It could be a novelty. It could be a new opportunity. It could also be means to keep you healthy and develop good habits. It is not strictly for consumerism and leisure and hedonism. It is not strictly for survival, but for fulfillment. I guess at the end of the day, like, be responsible with money, but have money to get you like little happy things in life. That's all. Well, that's the episode about money, and I know I said that a few minutes ago, but okay, now I'm really gonna end it. Well, anyways, thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye.